What is this little girl doing near my precious painting? Get her filthy hands away from it right now. Mrs. Victoria Kensington's venomous voice sliced through the elegant atmosphere of the Thorne Mansion gallery. She clapped her hands sharply, treating 12-year-old Ella Johnson like a stray dog. These people have no business being around fine art.
Sarah, control your child bevor she damage so meeting valuable.
The crystal chandeliers cast golden light across shocked faces as wealthy guests turned to witness the spectacle. Ella's mother, Sarah, trembling in her simple black uniform, rushed forward with desperate apologies.
Please forgive us, Mrs. Kensington.
Ella, move away this instant. But Ella stood motionless, her intelligent eyes studying the $12 million French Impressionist painting with unwavering focus. The room held its collective breath, waiting for the child to submit. Instead, words burst from her lips in perfect, aristocratic French. That painting is fake. The gallery erupted in gasps. This dismissed child had just spoken flawless French and declared their masterpiece a fraud. Dr. Eris Thorne pushed through the stunned crowd, her heels clicking against marble floors. As the mansion's owner and a renowned art expert, she'd heard whispers about authentication concerns. But this, a child speaking perfect French about her prized acquisition, was unprecedented. "Excuse me, little one," Dr. Thorne said in French, kneeling to Ella's eye level. "What exactly did you just say?" Ella's voice trembled but remained clear as crystal. The brushwork in the lower right corner is inconsistent with Monet's technique from 1894. The paint layering shows modern synthetic binders that weren't available until the 1950s. The crowd gasped again. Not only was this 12-year-old speaking flawless French, but she was using technical art terminology that most college graduates couldn't pronounce.
Mrs. Kensington's face flushed crimson.
This is ridiculous. A cleaner's child cannot possibly know anything about authentic French Impressionism. But Dr. Thorne raised her hand for silence, her eyes never leaving Ella's face.
Continue, please.
In English this time. The signature placement is wrong too, Ella continued, switching languages effortlessly. Monet typically signed his water lily series in the bottom left, but this signature sits in the
bottom right.
And the canvas preparation. She paused, glancing nervously at her mother. The ground layer shows machine preparation, not hand-prepared canvas like artists used in 1894. Dr. Thorne's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. These weren't lucky guesses. This child was articulating the exact concern she'd been privately harboring for weeks. "Where did you learn these things?" Dr. Thorne whispered. "I've been watching and reading for 12 years, ma'am. Every day when Mama works, I study the books in your library. I taught myself French and Italian to read the original art history texts." Sarah Johnson stepped forward, her hands shaking. "I'm so sorry, Dr. Thorne. Ella has always been curious about the artwork, but I never thought she'd speak out of turn." Dr. Thorne stood slowly, her mind racing. Had they really been harboring an untrained expert all these years?
"Ella," she said quietly,
"I think you and I need to have a very serious conversation." 2 hours later, the mansion's private library glowed with warm lamplight. Dr. Thorne watched Ella's eyes scan the towering bookshelves with practiced efficiency. "Show me what you know," Dr. Thorne said simply, gesturing toward a stack of art books. Ella's small hands moved with surprising confidence. "This Caravaggio," she said in flawless Italian, "was painted during his exile in Naples in 1609.
You can tell by the darker palette and the desperate energy in the brushstrokes."
Dr. Thorne blinked hard. The child had just identified not only the artist and period, but the emotional context.
"And this one?"
Dr. Thorne pointed to another reproduction. "Picasso's Blue Period, 1903, Ella replied in perfect Spanish. "He painted this after his friend's suicide. The melancholy reflects Picasso's own depression." The sound of pages turning filled the silence as Dr. Thorne tested her further. Each answer came in the artwork's original language. Each explanation demonstrated deep historical understanding. "Your catalog entry for the Degas Ballet series is dated by 3 years, Ella mentioned casually. "The costume styles and theater architecture place it in 1877, not 1874. Dr. Thorne's hands trembled as she reached for her authentication files.
Ella was correct.
"How long have you been studying my collection?" "Since I could read," Ella said softly. "The books became my teachers when I couldn't afford real ones." She gestured toward her cracked, outdated phone. "I taught myself languages using free apps and library audiobooks. French first, because so many art history texts are written in French, then Italian for Renaissance studies, Spanish for Goya and Picasso. Dr. Thorne watched the girl's voice change cadence with each language, her pronunciation flawless despite her humble circumstances. I've noticed several authentication issues with recent acquisitions, Ella continued, her voice barely above a whisper. But who would listen to a cleaner's daughter? The weight of those words hit Dr. Thorne like a physical blow. This brilliant child had been walking their halls for 12 years, observing, learning, developing expertise that rivaled graduate students, and they'd rendered her invisible. Ella's story began in the staff quarters of the Thorne mansion, where her mother had worked as head housekeeper for 15 years.
Chegre ab in 2 volts. Upstairs vis $1,000,000 masterpiece, downstairs vis hand-me-down furniture.
The spark ignited when Ella was 4, discovering a coffee table book about the Louvre. She begged her mother to teach her to read faster. I created my own education, Ella said. During Mama's breaks, I'd study these books. I memorized catalog entries while she dusted frames. Mama always told me, baby, they can't take away what you put in your mind. The pain in her voice was unmistakable, years of being looked through, not at, intelligence dismissed because of her zip code and background. I want to prove that knowledge doesn't have a dress code, a racial requirement, or an economic prerequisite, Ella said, her eyes blazing with quiet fire. The next morning, Dr. Thorne led Ella into the mansion's private conservation lab. Professional lighting illuminated the questioned French painting. I want you to examine this like a forensic scientist, Dr. Thorne said, handing Ella a magnifying glass.
Document evaluating.
Ella's hands moved with surprising steadiness. The brushwork inconsistencies are more obvious under proper illumination. See the hesitation marks? Monet's strokes were always confident, flowing. She pointed to a section near the edge. These paint formulations contain titanium white, which wasn't commercially available until 1916. This painting is supposedly from 1894. After hours of meticulous examination, Ella compiled a detailed report that read like a graduate thesis. Her conclusions were devastating. The painting was a sophisticated forgery. Dr. Thorne tested her, playing devil's advocate, but each challenge was met with scholarly evidence. Each doubt was answered with documented proof. Dr. Thorne, Ella whispered, her confidence wavering. What if they don't believe me because I'm just a kid? Dr. Thorne looked at the detailed report. Then they'll be making the same mistake everyone else has made about you.
She picked up her phone. Dr. Carter, this is Aris Torne.
I need your authentication team here immediately. We have a situation that could involve millions of dollars and international fraud. Dr. Rebecca Carter arrived the next morning with her team, wheeling in sophisticated equipment. So, where's this alleged expert who identified the authentication concerns? Dr. Carter asked, adjusting her wire-rimmed glasses. Dr. Thorne gestured toward Ella. This is Ella Johnson, our consulting specialist. Dr. Carter's eyes scanned Ella from head to toe, her expression shifting to barely concealed skepticism.
She's just a child.
What are her credentials? Instead of defending herself with words, Ella stepped forward and began speaking in flawless Italian about the painting's technical inconsistencies. She switched to French, discussing brushwork techniques, then to German, referencing authentication standards. Dr. Carter's clipboard slipped from her hands. Where did you learn to speak like that? I taught myself, Ella replied simply. Knowledge doesn't require permission to exist. Reluctantly, the team began their analysis. Within hours, Ella transformed from dismissed child to indispensable colleague. Her insights guided every aspect of the investigation. Each test confirmed her observations: synthetic paint binders from the 1950s, machine-prepared canvas, artificially aged varnish. In 20 years of authentication work, Dr. Carter admitted grudgingly, I've rarely seen such a precise preliminary assessment. The implications expanded beyond one painting. Ella's analysis suggested a sophisticated international operation targeting major collectors worldwide.
Strich.
That's when the main suspect made his dramatic entrance. Julien Moreau was a distinguished French art dealer who had personally sold the fake Monet. He swept into the gallery with his legal team, radiating arrogance. This authentication dispute is ridiculous, Moreau announced. My reputation is beyond question.
He spotted Ella. Who is this child?
Surely she's not part of this professional discussion. When Dr. Thorne introduced Ella as their lead specialist, Moreau laughed.
Ah, little girl?
This is a complete joke. Agent Miller began her questioning, but Moreau remained smugly confident. Then he made his critical mistake. He assumed no one understood French beyond basic phrases and began speaking rapidly to his assistant. These stupid Americans understand nothing about art, Moreau said contemptuously in French. The little girl certainly cannot speak proper French. He continued, carelessly revealing operational details, client lists, and forger locations. Our artificial aging technique is impossible to detect. Even the Louvre experts cannot tell our fakes from originals. Ella stood, her clear young voice cutting through his arrogance. Monsieur Moreau, she said in perfect aristocratic French that stunned the room. I understood every word you just said. Moreau's face turned white. His coffee cup clattered against the saucer. But a child cannot possibly.
Parlo italiano fluentemente. Anche e la switched to flawless Italian.
I heard everything you said about the forgers in Milan. Moreau collapsed into his chair as Ella systematically destroyed his criminal network, quoting his exact words back to him in multiple languages.
You destroyed e veriting ibuilt, Moreau whisperet.
No, Ella corrected firmly.
Your own arrogance destroyed you.
I just happened to be listening when you thought no one could understand. The implications expanded beyond one painting. Ella's analysis suggested a sophisticated international operation targeting major collectors worldwide. The next morning, news vans lined the street outside the Thorne mansion. Dr. Thorne and Ella walked side by side to the podium in the main gallery, the same room where Ella had been dismissed as worthless. Camera flashes erupted as Dr. Thorne introduced the remarkable person who single-handedly exposed the largest art fraud network in modern history, Ella Johnson, age 12, our consulting authentication specialist. Ella answered questions with scholarly precision, switching effortlessly between languages. Video clips of her linguistic abilities spread across social media. The hashtag talent has no uniform trended worldwide. Mrs. Kensington approached the podium, deeply uncomfortable. I was wrong, she said, her voice shaking. I judged Ella based on her background instead of recognizing her intelligence. Ella's response demonstrated remarkable grace. Mrs. Kensington, instead of a personal apology, I'd prefer if you supported educational programs for kids who can't afford private schooling. Dr. Thorne then made groundbreaking announcements. The Thorne Foundation is creating new pathways for non-traditional experts. We're establishing scholarship funds and implementing policies that value knowledge over credentials. The emotional climax came when cameras focused on Sarah Johnson in the front row, beaming with pride as her daughter addressed the world. This is my mother, Ella said. She made all of this possible through her sacrifices and her belief in education. The crowd gave Sarah a thunderous standing ovation. 6 months later, Ella Johnson stood in the same gallery where her journey began. She now led tours in multiple languages, her expertise drawing international visitors. The mansion's reputation had grown stronger than ever. Systematic change followed. Museums worldwide hired staff based on ability rather than credentials. The forgery ring was dismantled. Ella was writing a groundbreaking book on authentication techniques. But the most meaningful change was how other staff members had been empowered. James, the security guard, now led poetry workshops. The gardener taught botanical illustration. The chef offered international cooking lessons. You showed us that everyone has hidden talents, James told Ella. Ella had also begun mentoring young people from similar backgrounds, teaching them that knowledge was the only credential that truly mattered. During a speech at the United Nations, Ella challenged world leaders, how many geniuses are we overlooking because they don't fit our narrow expectations? The ripple effect continued, spreading across the world. A young boy in Detroit had his mathematical genius recognized. A grandmother in Kentucky had her quilting patterns featured in a major museum. As evening light streamed through the gallery windows, Ella sat at her desk surrounded by art books in 7 languages. Her mother's photograph sat beside her museum identification badge, a reminder of their journey. Her phone buzzed with messages from those inspired by her story. The ripple effect continued, one person at a time. Ella smiled, knowing that somewhere, someone else was being seen and valued for the first time. Because the most powerful truth she'd learned was beautifully simple: brilliance doesn't need permission. It just needs recognition.